Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck.
Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Matilda Swift, here with my co-host Samantha Cummings, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over 24 books between us, and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our mastery through missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way. This week we're taking you inside our mastermind meeting so you can consider setting one up yourself. First, what are your wins and whinges of the week?
I'm so glad you asked. My win of the week is that we just had our mastermind today.
How do you do this? I don't understand.
I really don't know how. We don't plan our masterminds to be like the same day or the same like part of the month. It's always just when we fit them in. So it can just be like a random like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
I think you've let me believe that.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm like with time, I don't think about like
That's
the
what
next
you claim.
month.
This is a long con. Because every time it's the mastermind meeting, it's your turn to say your wins and wins of the week first.
Yeah.
And
You
even
can't
this week we're
see-
doing 2 in a row.
Yeah, you can't see that. I've got a big calendar on the wall. It's got it all plotted out. It's like if she suggests we'll do it on this Sunday, suggest the next Sunday. No, it
You
is
don't
really
even have
just...
a good calendar. I've seen your planner. It doesn't have anything in it.
I know, but I've got the big wall calendar, which doesn't really also have that much on it. No, I don't know. I'm just lucky this way. This is manifesting 101. Just always want to do this.
Favourite.
Yes. So I am winning with Mastermind. It was a good day. I am incredibly tired, but we had great sushi. We had good cake. And yeah, just like a good chat. My brain hurts. I will be nonsensical this whole episode.
Which is a good reflection of what it's I was like.
Yes. I'm just going to say that's my win. I'm not going to whinge about anything because I just don't even know where I am right now. So, how
You're a
about
mastermind.
you?
Yeah. Well, we did record yesterday because we're doing 2 back-to-back because we're about to go to SPS and then I'm going to retreat afterwards. So we were never going to have time to do another podcast together unless one of us was on a train, and that would be horrible.
Yes.
So I've done my wins and wins last week, but I would say my win for today is our mastermind as well. I'm going to say also that. And we're going to talk about it more in depth in a minute, but I feel like today was a really good one. I mean, what's interesting is, we'll talk a bit more about this in a bit, but like they can be really variable because we try to make them kind of about what we want right now. And this felt like a really good example of one where I think I've thought about things and learned things that I could never have done by myself. So it feels like a win. And whenever you have a mastermind day and you feel exhausted afterwards, you're like, that was a good one. When you need to come home and just lie down for a bit.
Yeah, like I am mentally drained. Just absolutely don't even know how I'm still upright and talking. I feel like just like lots of big thoughts yesterday and today, like just lots of big thoughts going on at the moment, and yeah, it feels crazy, but I'm excited to talk about, unless you want to, we can just jump right in. Do you have any whinges?
No. I think so.
Okay, then let's just jump straight in to the topic of the week, which is that we've just come from our monthly mastermind day. But what are we telling people? Why are we telling people about this? What were you talking about?
Yeah, so I think we had a question in our Discord recently from someone saying, "Oh, I'm thinking about joining a tier that has got the mastermind extra meetings in." We have tiers in our Discord where you can join higher levels and get more interaction with us and more rewards and things like that. And one of them is that you can join a mastermind with us. And they're like, I don't really know what it is. And I feel like we just really haven't explained what we talk about and what we do. And I think the word mastermind is used so variedly, with such variation in the indie author community. It can mean anything. Like some masterminds are like invitation only, 7-figure authors. You're going to Bali together to spend a week talking business but also drinking cocktails and relaxing. And Some are, it's a big Facebook group where it's just people who maybe write in the same genre. And I think we deliberately used the word to start with to make us feel like we were doing something ambitious and professional, not just like we're hanging out for a day a week, a day a month, which like I think we would not have continued had we not had it like named something that felt big. That really helped to shape it. So and we've been on several other podcasts, which you can find links in our show notes, where we talked about the concept of like having a mastermind partner from an early stage in your career. And we've given some details of what it involves, but I think we wanted to really just go through and share like the blow by blow of what we talk about, because we meet up for 5 hours a month, which sounds ludicrous now we say it, because we also talk weekly, and we talk from like half an hour to an hour and a half for the podcast and just catching up with each other. And then we do the podcast for an hour, and then we chat probably like up to half an hour afterwards while it's uploading. So we already talk a lot. And so what do we have to talk about in these 5 hours? I think we haven't really articulated that. And it means that if anyone's, we really talk about, we want other people to set up their own mastermind as well, and have their own podcast. Like, I think it's hard to envision what we actually discuss. That isn't, it isn't the same as this podcast.
No.
It's similar, like it covers some of the same things, but like there's a reason why we do 5-hour mastermind and then come and do the podcast afterwards once a month. Like, we have a different conversation. So we wanted to really try and see, can we share what it is? And we have in the past, we said this last week, like we have in the past considered recording it and sharing that. But a big part of the purpose of it is to like talk about incredibly vulnerable, honest things that we would never discuss with like openly with anybody. For various reasons. And so recording that, I felt like, we could record a version of it, but like a sanitized version, then what's the point? So we're just going to talk you through today what we did.
Yeah, because if we recorded it, I feel like it would be a bit performative. Like, we would be podcasting a mastermind, which isn't the same thing. And like, when you say like we're a lot more vulnerable when we're in a face-to-face mastermind, if you think that these are therapy sessions recorded, you've no idea what are real. Like, we talk about so much more. like so much more. And it's like, not just because I know when we talk about money and stuff on the podcast, we are as honest as we can be with keeping it light and conversational and interesting for people without like giving too much personal information away, because you don't want to give too much away to people. But when we meet up together, like, we show each other like our KU dashboards, and we talk about how much money we've got to spend and what kind of budgets we're working with, if we have budgets, and then kind of force each other to confront very serious things about why you're scared to do certain things and why you hold yourself back, in a lot more personal conversation, rather than this kind of like fun, like bullying of each other. The mastermind is bullying in a different way, a different type of bullying. Which I would say is...
I think also it's like both ways bullying in person.
Both ways bullying in person. Yeah, like we like to play the pantomime on the podcast of the fact that I'm getting bullied because it's fun.
You're a bully.
But I know, like, in real life when we're doing a mastermind, I also do pushback as well.
But that's what we need, right? Because I can be nice to myself. Or a bully to myself.
Yes.
But like, when someone else does it, they're doing it from a very considered position of like, if someone else is, and we're saying bullying, we just mean like pushing you a bit farther than you push yourself. But like, when someone is doing a bit of bullying, like, I must really need this. It's not coming from a position of like, built up on like family money stories. It's making you wonder your worth. Like, it's just coming from, this is what you need to hear. And I think one of the things I really value from being able to be really open and honest in those is like, something I find really hard in the indie author community is people say like, I got a good number of pre-orders, or I got a pretty decent ROI, and you're like, what is that as a number? I don't know what that means. And so having someone where there isn't a barrier to like just saying an actual number. And I get why people are cagey about these things, right? It feels uncomfortable to share everything really honestly, because if you said a big number, people might, and I've heard about people saying like online, if you're saying big numbers and boasting about this, not boasting, but like you're being excited about your positive journey. Some people can get really negative about that and be really like be actual bullying about that. So you don't want to say something too positive because you might, engage the ire of envious people. And if you say something too negative, then you can just feel a bit like a loser. So I get why people in the open don't want to say real numbers, and I think I don't want to either. Like, it doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel beneficial to anybody. In any correlation to how much it would cost me to do. I know that some people would benefit from knowing more about our numbers, but like I would not feel comfortable doing that. But it feels very good to have someone I can check my numbers with.
Yes.
And someone who knows like where I'm really at. So if I suddenly said next week, I'm going to start spending £1,000 a day on Facebook ads, some people might be like, that's great. How amazing. You must be doing so well. Whereas you would know, like, no, don't do that. You'll go bankrupt and you'll die in a ditch. Someone who knows my actual numbers can say something to me.
Yes, like, why? What do you know now that you didn't know last week?
Yeah.
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 And it is that we have to prove to each other, or not that we have to prove, but we like to prove to each other that we've made a decision based on something. And that means sharing with each other like all of the things that we've been researching or like looking into, and then having to verbalize that information back to somebody else and then stand up to the scrutiny of somebody else who will say like, well, I see why you've taken that and made this decision, but also why did you come to that decision from that information you were looking at? And it really is a good way to, like, one of the things that we've been looking at recently is genres and testing out different genres and looking into what we could do in the future. And I've been doing this whole research thing, which is like a very visual, I don't even know what you could call it, but it's like a big diagram.
It's got a bit of a murder board feel about it.
It's murder boardy and it's interactive. It's kind of science fiction-y looking, like blobs that are floating in space. And I was able to show you that and like openly say, like, I've got all this information. Here it is. You can see it. I don't know I don't know how to read this information, and have you actually be able to look at that, and then that leads us into a conversation about like what I think I'm getting from it. And actually I had a bit of an epiphany today when we were looking at it, because I could look at that information all I want. Like, I've got all this information, but I'm only going to read into it what I already had, like my preconceived ideas about stuff. And it was only through talking about genres today that I realised why I was shying away from some, and also like why I was shying away from something that I think that I would really enjoy doing as well. Which is weird.
When,
it's like,
when you're forced to like have someone ask you questions about it, paying attention to your emotional response is actually really informative.
Yes.
Because if you are thinking about the same topics you've been thinking about for a while, you have sort of worn little roots in your mind of like, this is what I think about, this is what I don't think about. And when someone asks you a question about stuff you don't think about, you're like, oh,
yes,
I wish I
exactly.
hadn't asked about that.
Yeah, because I'll never look at the thing that I don't want to look at. I'll never examine that unless somebody says, but like, why? Like, this thing that you've got here, which shows like that maybe there's a gap in the market, and you openly talk about liking this genre, and it makes so much sense for you. Why aren't you looking at that? And it really, I can't avoid that. I can avoid it on the podcast because we've only got a set amount of time. We try not to go too long on this.
Yeah.
So it's easy to like brush past things. Like, we'll talk about big topics here, but we can't dig into like the emotional responses because you have to move on. A mastermind
and
is
I think
like,
if I asked you an initial question on the podcast and you were slightly cagey about it, like I wouldn't push it because I would know on the podcast, unless it was like a really, really clear thing we've kind of talked around for a while. I wouldn't necessarily ask it because I'd be like, oh, I'll kind of put that pin in that in my mind maybe to come back to it when we're off air or, you know, over subsequent episodes. But like when we've got 5 hours together, if someone is slightly cagey about something and you know it's something they care about and you know they've thought through a lot of it, then you can kind of like ask a few gentle questions or like come back to it later in the conversation. You can circle around something, you've got enough time. So that is a good example. I thought what we could do is just like literally go through from the beginning, kind of like recap our day, give a little bit of a play-by-play, and we'll come back around to that thing that we did earlier. So the most important thing that we do is we get sushi.
Yes.
That is really the key. And for a long time, we had a favorite sushi restaurant. And we come from the opposite sides of the same big city. So we come into different train stations that are about a 20-minute walk across the centre. So we try and meet somewhere in the middle. And we used to go to this sushi place that was like the absolute best sushi place in all of Manchester, if not the UK.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal sushi.
Yes.
And it was always really quiet. And we got to know the owner, who bizarrely grew up where I live now, that I did not know at all.
Yeah.
And she was an absolute dream. And I feel like slightly concerned that we influenced her to take a career break, because we were talking about taking breaks to write, and she would ask us about that. So I feel like we ruined our own sushi.
Yes, we did. We showed her there was another way.
Yeah, because she's now taking a career break to like rethink what she wants to do. She doesn't want to work in food and beverage anymore, which is disappointing for us. But then we found another sushi place that is very, very good. It is different, and it does enormous sushi. And so we spend a lot of our time battling, having a huge, huge mouthful of food, and then having an epiphany right as you're chewing. Yeah. But I think the good thing about meeting for a meal first is we kind of get all of our chit chat out of the way. And it's quite quick service sushi, so it's enough to cook it. So they bring it out within a couple minutes of getting there. Also, because it's a restaurant, if one of us is delayed on the way, it doesn't really matter. So we meet somewhere where it's like easy. There's low barriers. We have to both arrive at the same place within about 15 to 20 minutes of each other. Yeah. And if someone's late, you just read your Kindle. Fine. So we meet somewhere, we have a meal, probably only takes an hour. We get all of our like life updating, things somehow we haven't said over the many, many times we've been that week out of the way.
Like, I didn't tell you this, but, and then, yeah.
Yeah. And it was Sam's birthday this week, so I gave her my present. So we opened presents. That was fun. And then we eat sushi. And then today, in fact, I think sometimes we continue our chit-chatting into the next section. But I think today we were straight into like always starting to talk about business things. Yeah. And then that was kind of a good sign to be like, okay, let's go. And then we move venue at that point. This is not saying you have to do it this way, but I think for us, we found that really works is we have like a chit chat place, and then we say, let's move to do business.
Go to our business. Let's go to our office.
To our other food and beverage location.
Which is food and beverage.
Yeah. And we used to go to a museum that was between the two of us. That was much closer to the other sushi place. So now we just go to a bookshop that's got a cafe in it. That bizarrely, it used to be like a gentleman's club, and like a fancy gentleman's club. So it's beautiful on the inside and like very old historic building that's all covered in like books and typewriter decorations. And the back room is usually quite empty. So we just sit in there and have a table to ourselves where everyone else is quite quietly reading and presumably just listening in on our conversation.
And also, if anybody is an Anne Rice TV show connoisseur like I am, it was the set of they used the back room that we sit in the TV show Talamasca. So if anybody watched
which is set in London but not, it's set in Manchester.
It says it was set in London, but it was literally all of our Manchester haunts. The whole thing was Manchester, every place that we go to. So if you are one of those people,
what do they do in Talamasca?
It is the set for a book signing. So the guy, the interviewer from Interview the Vampire, the older guy, he's doing a book tour, and he is there doing a talk about the book and book signing. Yeah.
That is something they would do that. Yeah, I can see that. It does feel like the place a vampire would have a book signing. So imagine if the place a vampire would have, or a vampire interview would have a book signing. And so we just sit there until it shuts, until we get kicked out when it shuts, basically. So it's literally 2 minutes away from the sushi place. So we walk 2 minutes down the road, get a coffee, sit down. And today, then we subsequently had an absolutely delicious cinnamon bun, like Biscoff topping.
Good.
It was vegan, it was soft, it was chewy, it was so tasty. When we had that before we left, we were having a bit of a flag at like 4 p.m. But we sit there for 4 hours, it doesn't feel like 4 hours. And we both, in our planners this year, surprised each other by being like, I've got an extra page that I ordered for my planner, I've got an extra section, and it was the same section as meeting notes pages. So we literally take minutes. And like, I'm not very good at recapping the minutes, but it just helps us feel like we're following plan. And we kind of agree. We don't even agree, we just like remind ourselves of what we said we want to talk about, because it's usually stuff we already know we've got on deck that like is a big thing we couldn't talk about just in the half an hour for a podcast, or it didn't fit into a podcast topic. So like, let's talk about this then. And a meeting monthly is like enough time for us to schedule, like to kind of keep track of these things. And very occasionally we don't really have anything like on an agenda. and then we just sort of talk through what we're thinking about or what we've tried recently. But in like a chatty way. It's not a meeting. It is just like
we
conversation.
kind of, it's like a natural progression of topics. Like we'll have a list of things that we know we should talk about, and I'll be honest, sometimes we don't get to it all because we get distracted. Yeah, we're like, oh, we could just talk about this topic for that whole time, and we do that sometimes. Today was a good example of a time where we made time to talk about every topic, which we don't always do. But we were like
online 3 hours later anyway, so if we miss something, it's fine.
So today we had like set topics, and we made sure to hit each one. I guess because we're both at like big point in our Act 3, it feels like
we're at midpoints.
We had to be good and talk about this stuff. But it is chatty, and it's not like present me your things and I'll look at them and I'll tell you where I think you've gone wrong. It's just conversational, and I think you can tell from the podcast that we are good at conversation. So that does help. I think you have to be somebody who is open to having a conversation. I think that it'd be very difficult to do a mastermind. Yeah, there's and if there are, it's because like we've just mentally overloaded ourselves, and we're like, I gotta go and get another coffee. Or like probably one time where we're like, I think we just need to go home. But we are good at talking and having conversation, and that is a benefit. And I think that if you struggle to talk openly with somebody, then that's probably not the right person to have a mastermind with. But
also you could just start with a shorter session, because I think a lot of our comfort with what we're talking about, I think we were comfortable from the beginning, but like definitely when we talk now, I think we are always like almost anticipating what the next person's going to talk about. Like it feels a very easy conversation. And I think previously some of the conversations we would have is just like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. Whereas now it's like, can you look over what I'm doing here and ask me some questions about it? So I think today's a really good example of that. Of like, we're never having to present to the other person, but like we can choose to, like, can you look at this and give me some feedback or questions?
Yes, and I think that's like, I really like the face-to-face part of the mastermind, because you could do it online, and I'm sure many people do it online, but we are both people, like, we have notebooks, you know, we write things down and we show each other stuff. I'm like, here, look at my phone, look at this tab, look at the 600 tabs I've got open. Like we pass things to each other, and you know, it's nice to meet up and drink coffee and stuff, but we both are showing each other stuff. And I think for me, that wouldn't feel as personal if it was just online.
There was a part today where like you were reading things on my laptop and I was looking at something on your phone, and then we looked at the presentation on your laptop, and then I showed you the comparable thing I have in my notebook, and it did feel like we do need all those physical things to pass back and forth, to have someone like be able to give someone like 5 minutes to look through this and then ask me questions. And I think bizarrely today was the first day I'm not very good at taking notes. I really wrote down the topics I want to talk about, because we actually had quite a lot on our agenda today. Usually we might just mention it and kind of like keep them in our heads and be like, don't forget when you talk about that. But we did make an agenda which felt very professional. And like the things that are on it regularly is like find a date for our next meeting. So every time we meet, the first thing we do is, or often the last thing we've forgotten to do, but like we always find the date for the next meeting. We just usually pretty easy, because it has to be one Sunday around a month in the future, but it's never like exactly a month. And then we plan the next podcast episodes, which I think is actually very useful. It helps us focus on like, what are we thinking about right now? Because we only make podcast episodes about where do I think I'll be over the next month? Because we try and do like 4 episodes kind of plan at a time. And so sometimes that conversation itself is quite telling. And that helps us decide what we're going to talk about. Because sometimes we'll have a conversation where it sort of seems like we're both trying to talk about the same topic. So we might say, let's have an episode that's about like budget. We had that conversation today, like let's talk about budgeting. And we sort of did want to do that. And then the more we talked about it, the more we realised like, actually we don't have anything to say about it. Because what we really need to do is maybe go in and think about it ourselves. And then think like, I don't really have a very specific budget in the way that it would be useful to talk about. Do I want to do that? Do I not? Let me think about it, and we'll come back at a later date and think about that. But then really want something else about money, that kind of dug into something we talked about in last episode. So just forcing, and that's quite useful, and I think maybe something you couldn't do if you just had a mastermind, like a monthly mastermind. So do please start a podcast, everyone.
Yes.
Is kind of project yourself a month into the future and think, what am I going to be thinking about for next month, and what do I want to have an in-depth conversation about? And that helps focus our conversation for the rest of the session. So sometimes we just do that, and then that leads to where we go for the whole rest of the day if we don't necessarily have things on our agenda. But we did have other things on the agenda. So we had two big topics. Actually, we had three big topics. One was the annoying issue that's a tech issue, to do with banking, which is just like, let's have a look at this face to face and look at our banking stuff for the podcast. That was useful to be face to face to do that. And then two actual big topics were our genre work, and we want to look into some grants. And both those are great to be face to face for. And I think they were big and vague, but they're both things that we are very interested in at the moment. So yeah, do you want to talk about just like how we discuss those things?
Yeah, with the genre stuff, it really is like, we've talked about this openly on the podcasts and stuff about, like, are we changing genres? Like, what are we doing with our current genres? How do we look into different genres? How do you find like comps for your books and things like that? So we both have strangely created the same sort of document.
Yeah.
Which is like,
I mean, identical. It was weird.
Strangely, you must have mentioned this, and I must have written this down, because it feels like what I created was something that you would create, which makes me think that I stole your idea.
I don't think you did, because I think it took me a long time to come up with that, and like it took me several iterations to figure out what I wanted to be in it, and I don't think I've showed it to anybody.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I just must have like tuned into it in the universe, like that was what you were doing. So we both
and it's like a very, very big database of comp titles, basically.
Yes.
And they included things like, is it in KU or wide? What's the page count? Both of us had like how much romance is in it, but like coming from opposite ends, I was like, I'm looking for books with no romance, so you're looking for like books with romance.
Yeah. And also,
is it canon indie?
Yes, but we both also looked at like, what's the sidekick's name?
Yeah.
Which I thought was like a really weird thing for me to like. I've got a column for like the main character's name, the love interest name, and then the side character or like best friends' names, because it's just, that's like nothing to do with a book, but at the same time it's the fun, like the fun part. And I thought, like, what a frivolous thing to put in research, and then I saw that you had also done that. So we both love sidekicks and sidekick names.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started off showing you what I had done, and that was like a very, very helpful conversation to have, because like I said before, I can look at the research that I've done, and it's not even complete research. There's so much more I need to put into it, but I'm not a good research person. I have like the initial ideas fine of what I want to research, but then I kind of struggle to know what information to hone in on, and I think this is just because my brain sees it now as homework and so doesn't want to do it. It's like, oh, you've created a homework task and we don't do homework, so you're not going to do it.
I think what else is useful is being in a mastermind with someone who thinks of things differently.
Yes.
Like we had both created the same base document, but for me, I didn't do anything with the base document because I like looking at spreadsheets and things. And I was like, okay, this is all I need. I can then go away and pick out what I want to read from this and what I want to take further. And I made myself an on paper reading list and like an analysis tool. But you went and visualized it and used this spectacular visualizing tool.
Yes, it's called Obsidian. So we'll have to put that in the show notes. It is a program that you can download for free. It's free. I've got the Mac version. I think you can get it for PC as well. And it is I think, let me see what they like describe themselves as, because I think they do actually say that it's for book planning. This is their little blurb. From personal notes to journaling, knowledge bases and project managing, Obsidian gives you the tools to come up with ideas and organise them. So that's exactly what it is. It's an ideas organising system, but you get to create these charts that look like, well, what I've called them is solar systems. So I've got a main genre as the sun, and then subgenres as planets, and then coming off those is moons and stuff, I guess you could say, for what books are in these subgenres. And then you can color code.
Yeah.
So I've got like different colors for trad than I've got for indie books, and that for me is tip top. I need to just be able to see, and it's really, really helpful. So highly recommended if you're a visual person as well.
But it also meant that like I could see it quite easily as well, because it was so visual. We could talk about it quite quickly.
Yes.
And I think this is what really helps about having someone who's at kind of a similar stage to you is I could ask you questions that were like things that have come up when I was researching genres, and just ask like, oh, have you included that, or you factored that in here? Does this data represent this that I would be representing? And then just, I think even being able to ask those questions help both of us think about the genre research. It wasn't just that like one of us is helping the other person. It's always like, if we're thinking about vaguely the same things, just having someone else do it a slightly different way is very helpful.
It always triggers more thoughts for both of us.
Yeah.
Which is good.
I love asking a lot of questions. So I asked a lot of questions, and we mentioned earlier, like, there were maybe half a dozen sort of subgenres in there. Yeah. And one of them is like, oh yeah, obviously this one that you love everything about it. This is the one you've been writing in. And you're like, no. and then because it's so obvious, it's what you are very focused on in like everything you consume, from the research, like a great genre, everything is on paper good, right? So like on paper good would make you think, if you're just signing by yourself, you would think I should do that then if it's on paper good. But being forced to like talk about it and like seeing your response to it is like, no, you shouldn't do that because you clearly don't want to, and it seems unpleasant to you.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't realise I'm definitely like a bury my head in the sand, and I want to do the fun stuff, and I don't want to, even though I love thinking about things in depth and like in great detail and being like very cerebral about stuff. I don't like to turn that on myself, or I can't, or like I'm just very hesitant to actually dig into why I have particular feelings about things. I just think, oh, I don't like this. Never mind. But I don't know why I think that I don't like things. And it is only through you saying, like, why did you make that face? Like, what's wrong with you? That I realise, oh, yeah, like, that's a weird reaction to have, because I wouldn't have looked in the mirror at my own face and seen my reaction. I would have just moved on. And I think
but you wouldn't even actually have a question about it. You would have been
no. I would have just been like, nah.
Just ignore that thing over there.
Yes. Yeah, like actually refusing to look at it. And that is such a benefit. And I think it's also really helpful that we're not in the same genre. And I know we say this a lot, but especially when we do things like genre research, because we aren't looking at each other's research with preconceived ideas. Yeah. Because like you haven't looked into the research that I'm doing, and I haven't looked into yours. So it's like just being able to have a fresh take on something. And
and I can only feed back your own ideas to you. And like I have some knowledge of the genres, but like if you tell me something, then if you say like, oh, this is a really big popular genre where everyone makes money, but I don't want to write in it, I have to be like, it's a big popular genre, everyone makes money, why would you not want to write in it?
Yeah, it's crazy. And after we'd looked at my stuff and we looked at your stuff, I think we both had epiphanies about what we were doing, which was very nice and very impossible to have without having spoken about it. And I've got quite different things. I think I'm at a different stage because I have been pretending to myself for like the past like few weeks that I am not committing to any genre. I'm like, I'm just doing loads of research and thinking about it, and then like all I'm really doing is like researching one genre and reading in it, and then I was like, and I feel like I'm not. We talked about this as well today. Like, it's such a good space to really be able to articulate your worries. So I was like, I feel like I'm not talking about it because I don't want to say out loud, because then it's opening up the door to failure. It's like I'm trying this big thing, and it's going to not even open up the door to failure, but open up the door for people to tell me that's a stupid idea, you'll fail. And I don't want to hear that, because I'm not confident enough in my own decision making right now to stand up against that. If someone said it's a terrible idea and you'll fail, that would really shake my ability to like progress with the project. Whereas I know you wouldn't do that, so I can talk to you about it. And then where I was at today was I got like we did a few weeks ago, like we had 3 books that we said were comps to our book, and then we had to read the beginnings of those and then the beginnings of each other's books and say like, oh, do I think it really is a comp, and like where does it sit?
But I'm not quite at the stage for that for mine because I haven't like written a book. So I just wrote like a sample first page, which might not be the actual book at all in itself, but it's like I just wanted to write a sample first page and gave Sam 3 openings of like kind of the full spread of the genre that I'm looking at. And there's quite a spread from really like bare bones, almost like factual sounding language, quite kind of chatty language that's more like crazy mysteries that I written before, and quite so slightly more ornate language. So I gave it like, here's a spread of what's in the genre right now, and all 3 of these are in popular series, all available, and like here's what I'm thinking of for this opening. And then having a chat about like where the mind fits in with that, where it fits in, what I'm thinking about doing, and asked questions like which end of the spectrum do you think it's fitting in? Why are you trying to fit in there? How does that feel to write that? It's not maybe as close to what you're writing before. Why are you doing that? Like really questions that I think if I had felt less, I think could easily have made me feel like I do need to go away and think about this more. But I felt able to answer them, and I felt like, fine, yeah, I have thought about this. So it was useful to kind of have that to give me like a boost of confidence of like, yes, I have thought through these things, rather than just like, I just wrote it, I don't know, which is what I would have felt about my previous cozy mystery series of just like, when I was like trying out a series to market, I wrote the series to market in terms of concepts, but not in terms of style.
Yeah.
And had I done this exercise then, we would be able to have a conversation of like, why does this not look like anything else in the genre?
Yeah.
And I would have had to say, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to have that conversation and not be worried about time, because I was definitely asking you to expand on, and like basically asking you to tell me the whole plan. Like where do you think this could go? What do you imagine if you were to write a series in this genre? What would it look like? What's the story? Like,
I'm so excited about this series. I've got like all the first 4 books planned really and the spin-offs.
Like what are your career aspirations with this? What are you changing pen names? Like all of the questions that we like just on these sorts of podcast chats and stuff, I wouldn't really have the chance to ask, but like is being able to ask those in private in a public place where like 100% people listen to us talking, because we're obviously the most interesting people that are there. Yeah. Unless someone is actually a vampire, in which case they've probably heard it all before. It is nice to be able to like dig into each other's psyche and be like, oh, like what are you thinking? Where are you going with this? What world have you already imagined but you're just not telling me? And as it turned out, you did actually have like such a fun, exciting plan, and you were really downplaying it. Like, well, I could do this and this, but I'm not sure. It's like, but you've excitedly already come up with so much scope.
I think I don't. And it is a confidence issue. Like, I don't feel like I want to race ahead.
Yeah.
Because I think troubles I've had in the past with my series have come from just like not having thought about enough things, but like not knowing what I hadn't thought about. And so now I just feel like Wile E. Coyote, like running towards a wall that looks like there's been painted like a tunnel. So that's stopping me getting too enthusiastic about it, which feels sad. Like when I describe that way, like I don't want to lose my enthusiasm, but like I also don't want to run into a brick wall. Like Wile E. Coyote looks like an idiot when he does that. It's like this very clear painting of
why you should be like me and be like Roadrunner. When I walk around my office and go past people, I go beep beep. And I think, I feel like I'm Roadrunner. I'm trying not to be Roadrunner. I'm trying to stop.
Yeah. Also, Roadrunner is the villain of the piece. He's a bully.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Why is he always torturing Wile E. Coyote? What's their backstory?
Well, Wile E. Coyote is trying to catch him to eat, surely.
I feel it never comes up. Like, he's just running for his life constantly. Because if Roadrunner wants to escape, just run away. Stop setting elaborate traps
is
for your
doing what
enemy.
He is born to do. He's born to run. And Wile E. Coyote is trying
paint a tunnel on the side of a mountain.
Trying to stop him. I feel like he is like the master of the universe, and he's painting those walls because he himself can travel through them. And it's not his fault. He doesn't know that Coyote can't get through.
I think I've missed that episode. But anyway, I don't want to be Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, this is why we need
But I
masterminds. We should go off on tangents so we don't have to record it.
That's true. But I think it's useful to kind of have somebody who, if in the real world, I don't want to like be Wile E. Coyote. I don't want to like reveal I don't want to be excited about something that someone's going to like slap me down and make me feel bad about. Which like I think people never do on purpose at all. But I think I am in a
very
position where I'm feeling like sensitive about my choices. Because I don't want to. I don't feel like I'm able to explain myself like and like give good reasons other than like hope.
Yes, I know. Yeah, like just excitement at doing something fun.
Yeah. But I think I'm able to talk to you about those things because all you're going to do is bring like curiosity and but also I think if I were going really in a crazy direction, you'd be like, like, can you just explain a little bit more?
Yeah, because if you started writing non-fiction, that's I would be
future genre.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, I think that's a waste of your talents. But it's good that you were able to bring a sample of what you've been writing, and I always like reading the samples of stuff because you're so good at being like, oh, I'm gonna write like 500 words of this sort of story, and I think that's I like seeing that. I think that's a really interesting thing that you do, and I like the fact that I get to read that and see where you're coming from, and also like the scope of your ability because I think that you have such a good writing skill, even though you often don't think so. Like
it has been really nice to do 500 words. Like I've done it in several genres recently to be like, could I write in this genre? Could I write this one? This is one where I definitely felt very comfortable to write the 500 words. And I think what's interesting was in other genres that I've tried it in, it's either felt interesting to write the ideas or it's felt interesting to write in the writing style. And this is one where it felt both of like, I felt like I could have a lot of whimsical ideas and like twist them together and then use the writing style to kind of pack in a sort of coziness without cutesiness, and like a certain sort of feeling, but still have quite dense writing. Because I think I don't want to. I don't think dense is a great descriptive term for someone to understand what I mean. But like, I think I like to pack a lot of ideas in and like a lot into one sentence, and I want a genre where that is a positive thing.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. Like I find it really difficult to describe the style, like people's style of writing. It's I just other than saying like flowery or poetic or like dense or simple, like they're not the right words to use. But that's the only way that I can talk about it.
Which is interesting. We don't really have a good vocabulary for that in English. I wonder if other languages do.
Yeah. Because it's not just genre, it's like the style is something that fits in the genre, but there's obviously like different styles that you can put in one genre. Yeah, I don't know what the right words are, but I understand what you mean when you say dense.
But that definitely felt like an epiphany for this genre where like both aspects felt interesting to write. Not necessarily like fun, but as in it felt rewarding to write. Like I think the writing style is quite a challenge, but like a challenge that I want, that sort of challenge. I don't want to be trying to challenge myself to write the simplest possible prose. That I think is something I've been trying to do for a while and it has not worked or been fun. So in this, like I can challenge myself to write like accessible prose, but also interesting and sort of not tricksy. We don't have enough good words for it, but you know what I mean? Just like engaging in some way.
Yeah.
We need better words for this.
Tricksy writing. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like you're leading someone down a certain path with deliberate like word choices and you're controlling their emotional response. Like that is what I find interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I liked that. Yeah, I liked seeing what you'd written and I liked seeing the different comps that you had for it. That was a fun thing to share. I think like when I think we both kind of ended that part of the session feeling like we had decided stuff. Yeah. Like you say, like we're both at different stages of this, but I definitely feel like I know what my next steps are, which was like Doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's like you go away and you're like, I need to do far more work before we can talk about this. But I do feel like I came away with
which
a
is
really
useful
good
to know, because you might think you're further along than you really are. And you're like, oh, actually, I couldn't answer any of those questions, therefore I need to. And you had really good reason for, like, I've kind of made my initial plans and now I know I need to go and read a few books in each of these subgenres that I'm still considering, and then come back once I've got a better sense of like how I fit in with those. And I think we both asked each other questions about timelines, and that was very useful, because I think in my head I'm sort of living in magical time.
Yeah, you're always living in magical time.
Yeah.
The person that's like, I could read 2 books a day.
Yeah, I've not done that. I have read a lot of books though, that's been good. But yeah, and I think when you're sat down in front of someone, like, you have a diary, you have a calendar in front of you, you have to actually look at the dates and be like, oh, I'm in no way going to meet my like dream deadline, which I've kept in my head for a bit. I've been like, that's when it would be great to release a book, and I could release a book then. That's the thing, right? I could do a book then, but I could not set myself up for success then.
Insane.
I absolutely could release a book then. Yeah.
Oh, I 100% believe that you could release a book then. Yeah. I don't think that's what you should do.
No. And that's kind of where I've been at, is like, I've not made myself question it, because I know time-wise I could release a book then. And it would fit well with the genre to release a book when I was thinking about it. But like, there's no need to. No. I'm feeling partly like panicked because I'm living off my savings, and it has a finite, as a clock on it. So I was thinking like, oh, as soon as possible is when I should do it. But actually, really, kind of whatever I do, I only really have like one shot to make a big pivot with the money I have in my bank right now. And there's no improvement if I do it sooner rather than later. Like, I would rather have more books, think things through better, do more marketing, and release the books a little bit later. And still have a decent timeline with which to make money from them. And kind of being forced to like actually look at a calendar and look at real time rather than ideal dream time was very useful.
Even me, somebody who has no concept of time, when you told me what your plan was, I looked at my watch like, what's the date today? Right. Okay.
It is ages away. It's just not ages enough away.
It is not ages away. Ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't December, I'll tell you that for free. So it's June now, and it wasn't December, which means it was too close.
Months away, so it was doable, but not doable well. And having to really confront that is like useful. So we talked about genres, and we came away with like very strong things we need to do next, and a much more realism to our ideas, which I think is for both of us is where we were at. Like, we had kind of brought together in our heads as much things as we could do, and then needed to sort of like shine a light on it and have someone else do that. So that was very helpful. And then we had our last section where we wanted to talk about grants, which is like something we talked about a while ago, not on the podcast, just between two of us, because we were like, there's a few different grants you can apply for in the UK, and we'd come across some people online who were talking about like various author grants they'd applied for, and so we're both like, well, we both would like money to support our author careers. Like, neither of us has got a rich spouse or our independent means as some other authors are. Like, we're just not in that position. So like, accessing funds that are available from various funding bodies in the UK would be useful. So we sort of looked into it a while ago. One of the funds we were going to apply to had like a massive crash, like really catastrophic crash, as we were like thinking about applying. So that really like put a and it was a big thing to work towards.
It was a big thing to work towards. We were in like the WhatsApp group for it. It was constant drama, people asking questions. Yeah. And I stayed in that group for as long as I could. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to have to mute this, because they are no closer to saying like what's going on with this grant. And every single post from the admin was like, but you can do this course that you can pay for to learn more about it and stuff. And I was like, this is a scam. It's not a scam, but it felt too like taking advantage of people who were in a group to try and access funds. It was like, it just was not doing me any good just seeing notifications every day from them. So just not looking at that right now. But there are plenty of other grants out there that you have. I would
say plenty. There are some.
I would say plenty. If there's more than like 3, That's plenty. There must be at least 10. I actually remember a while ago, because you were talking about somebody having a spreadsheet, and I definitely follow someone on Instagram who was talking about, because she got that grant that we have been looking at, and then she at some point had mentioned having like a spreadsheet with grants that she had applied to on it, and I can't remember who it was, and it wasn't the same person that you were talking about. I only just remembered it when I was on the train home. I was like, I'm sure I followed someone because of this. Can't remember who it is. Like, literally no idea. I'll never be able to find her in the thousands of people that follow.
I think you will. I think it will come back to you. So I think when we first had the ideas about this, it's like a bit overwhelming, and there was like a lot of stuff out there, but it felt it's a very new space. There were people like running courses that were like felt a bit like they take advantage of people, and like gatekeeping information excessively, which like you don't really do in the indie author space. These are often like trad authors, and so there's like a bit of excessive gatekeeping. Dates are moving, things are falling through, and so I think both people were like, let's just take a break from this. But I don't even know what happened, randomly came across like a little grant recently that was like exactly perfect for what I needed. And it was a tiny amount of money, but I was like, I'm going to use this just as a test case, and I will apply for it without saying anything to you. I was like, because I don't want to waste both our time. So I'll apply for it.
Cheating me out of it.
That is not true, because then I knew I had enough time to get the grant. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, now it's not a waste of time. I got this grant. It was like a tiny amount of money to cover a train fare. But I'd got the grant, and so then I told you about it, so you had enough time to apply for it without wasting your time. And that kind of reignited me, like, oh, you know what? That's free money. Yeah. And it's free money designed for people like me to do what I'm doing. So there's more free money out there. I think there's not plenty. I would say there is a moderate amount. And it's going to be different based on where you are in the world, even where you're in the country. But there's some that we're both in the north of England. There's some things that are only available to us here. There's some that are available to, we found one today for like people under 40, which rude.
So rude. Emotionally, I'm under 40.
Yeah, me too. We should write that. Emotionally, I'm a small child. And yeah, there are some that are like, there are people of various minorities, disabilities. Like, there's no point in us sharing specific names, like every grant that you're looking for. And like, some of them are like residencies, so you can go and have like 2 weeks in a tiny little cottage somewhere. They're all so specific, and a lot of them require like you to have had a trad deal, which is like, that shuts it off from a lot of people who are listening. But I think we were then like, having applied for it successfully, and the fact I had a meeting with another author recently who was also talking about applying for them, I was like, oh, you know what? I feel like there's something in the air. Let's have and you want someone to do with you. It's something you need to be accountable for. Like, filling in these application forms are tedious. So I added it to the agenda today to say, like, can we just get some more energy around this? And like, can we both work together on this and get some applications going and just like help each other through? Because when I'd done my successful little one recently, I just sent you the application form. I was like, fill it in. You can borrow these details because we're like, do what you like with this. There's nothing secret between us. So then you did, doing the application, it's in. And yeah, so it felt like two heads better than one in this case, because a lot of the information is kind of gate-kept and hidden on the internet somewhere. And so if you can figure it out, it's better to do it and then share the information with your friend. So we did that. And again, that's a thing where it really works in a mastermind, because like, it's not something where we would share it on the podcast because it's so specific. Some of these grants are only suitable to us as like women over 40 in the north of England. So we couldn't talk about it on here. And also it's something where, you know, it's a huge amount of detail and incredibly tedious and slow to talk about. So like, it's not interesting to everybody. But looking at it together and kind of creating a little accountability bubble of someone who's in the same financial situation as you felt really useful. So that felt good. And that was just like a half-hour chat about that at the end of our session.
What was good was you asked me, what do I want the money for? And I thought that was a very good question, because a lot of the times when you're like trying to get money, it is like, you don't ever think, well, I don't, like, what is the motivation behind this? What's the money for? What are you going to use it for? You can ask for grants and stuff, but if you're not specifically looking for something, like if you don't know what you're going to use the money for, you might struggle filling in an application form. So you, or even just like me,
you might not find the grant that's useful for you. Because some of them are like they're for travel grants to go somewhere, or they might be to buy you time. But like, if you at the moment can't take time off work, there's no point buying yourself time.
Yes, yeah, and I was thinking that when I was walking back to the train station, like, am I just do I just believe that I can't take? I mean, I definitely can't this year because I've used up all my holidays. But do I just believe that I can't take time off work because I'm not good at changing my routines? Anyway, I'll work through that separately.
Yeah,
Like,
because
my
it's not like
belief.
time off you could take. You could reduce your hours at work. Like I did that. I
Yes.
went down to 4 days a week at work,
Yeah.
and you could use grant money to fund, like, to fill in the gap of the
Yes.
fifth day a week of work money.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking like maybe I just can't conceive of that because I've not thought about what that lifestyle would be like yet, and I just haven't given it much thought. So I'm going to be thinking about that to see if that's like something that if I could wrangle it,
Yeah.
would I want to? And I do. And I think that would be like amazing. So I'm going to think about that. But you like another thing that we were talking about. What would the money be for? Was like alleviating money stress, which is something that I think a lot of people have, is like anything that causes money stress. I know every time I need to get one of my books edited, I'm like, this is the worst thing in the world. This costs me so much money. I can't afford it. I'm scared I can't afford the next book. And I think if I got money from a grant, that would take that fear away completely.
Yeah.
Like I would not,
because it is a big
even
chunk
think
that's like, it's not amount of money you have in your monthly budget. You can't be like, oh, let me spend
no.
half my monthly budget on editing, like half my discretionary budget, so I just don't have fun this month. I don't see any friends. I don't go anywhere. I just pay for editing.
And it actually spreads. It's like 2 months worth of, or 2 or 3 months worth really of extra money that I wouldn't be able to do anything with, because my books are bigger, so my editing costs me a lot of money. and it's amazing, but it's awful. But also just like having money to cover retreats as well would be so good, because I take the money for like retreats and like going to SBS and everything is effectively the money that I would use to go on holiday with my boyfriend. So having like being able to actually go on holiday and it not be like one or the other, which I know is like a privileged point to be in anyway. Like I like somebody who can go on holiday and
it's
go
not
on
like you're flying off to Bali. I'm like, you take a week in Harrogate. It's not like
Sometimes I go to Europe.
You haven't even got a passport at the moment.
No, not right now. It only just ran out.
I'm going to bully you for this because this is atrocious. As an English person without a passport, you're trapped in such a small country.
I've got the pictures. I just haven't sent the form off. / gone online. I don't even remember.
What if it's a zombie apocalypse? It's such a small country. You have to get out at any moment.
I have been watching zombie films recently. I watched 28. Well, I've watched like 28 years later and 28 weeks later.
Days, months.
I've been watching them all.
That's what I think about all the time. It's just like the zombies will be just here, and they're not going to come to Manchester Airport first. They're going to be in London, so we could get out.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I'll get out because I've got a passport.
Yes, I will stay and fight.
Okay, not me.
Yeah, I know where the weapons are. I know where there's a weapon stash near me, and I'll be fine.
Okay.
It's where I used to do samurai training.
Okay. But yeah, and like there are lots of paid for retreats. There's lots of like, because really what a retreat is just like a building and some food.
Yeah,
and, that is actually not that hard to get funding for. And like a lot of people apply to like government funding. There is like the National Lottery Fund, there's Arts Council funding for charities to create retreats. So actually it's almost easier, I think, a lot of places to apply for paid for retreats than to actually get individual grants.
Yeah.
But you should have to, and often they're booked up a long time in advance. I'm going on a lot of retreats this year, but I paid for them last year when I was working. And so next year, I don't have the budget to be going on retreats. And I really have done so, like, I've really appreciated retreats this year. They have done so much for me. Like, just in terms of, like, only giving yourself headspace to think about one thing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so next year, if I don't have any that are funded, I'm probably, like, really going to struggle to, like, have the same sort of experience next year and the same focus on my writing. Which really focuses my attention on this sort of application. So I'm going to be applying for those things and figuring out how to. And they're always in the middle of nowhere, so I need to figure out how to get to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But that is where the cheap property is. But yeah, and just having someone else to kind of be accountable to for discussing that means that I'm not going to be like, I'll do it next week, next month, next
Yes,
year.
if we when we do it together, there's been quite a few things where we've done that, and basically that's what this whole podcast is when we say we're going to do something because we've said it to each other, you can't not do it.
It's in the minutes now.
Yeah, like literally can't show up next week without having done certain things. And there's nothing better than a mastermind and a podcast to make you do the things that you don't want to do. Like I've done so much stuff that I would never have done because I can't show up and face you and say, I haven't done anything. Like I have to do it.
In a good way. Yeah.
In a very good way. Yeah. It's like the best way.
Yeah. So hopefully that's given you insight into what we actually talk about. And if you'll believe it, like that was 5 hours of our day. And, you know, in between all that, there was like little chats about what we've read and what the cake's like and whether someone in the room is a vampire. Like it's a very casual, fun conversation, but it is intense. Like we talked about a lot of things and made a lot of plans and ate sushi and cake. So it was fantastic.
Yeah.
We've run quite long today, even though I definitely thought we were going to have a shorter one than last time. So anything else very quick to
add? No. My brain is mush, so no.
Okay. If anybody would like to hear more about what we're doing, kind of have more accountability, come along and join the Discord. The link is in the show notes. It is absolutely free. There are tiers you can join to get more from the Discord, but the basic level is free and you can just chat in there, share resources, share things that you've learned, ask questions, anything at all. But if you wanted to join tiers, the link to the coffee's in there where you can either join a tier of membership or you can just contribute and give us a coffee to chat over next time. Next week we'll be back from SBS Live in London, and we're going to share what we learned there. So I feel like I don't know. It feels like it's miles away, but it's actually very soon. It's days away. So I need to be considering what I'm actually going to go there to do and what I want to learn.
Yeah, but same. I haven't thought. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and then looking forward to talking about it afterwards.
Yeah. So join us then, and we'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to Pen to Paycheck Authors.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to learn how to write your way to financial success.